Hard-to-tow vehicle stuck in the mud in El Castano in Venezuela's northern Aragua state. Intense rain has caused a landslide in Niue that killed at least 3 people. More details on this later in the news. Good evening. I'm CJ Hero. And I am Nina Richie Alagaw Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. And now for the headlines.
The Department of Health warns that daily COVID-19 infections may reach 18,000 by November as it confirms detection of 81 XBB Omicron subvariant cases in 2 regions of the country. Justice Secretary Jesus Crispin Remulla says he will not heed calls to resign over his son's drug arrest and vows not to intervene in his son's case. Alleged gunman in the slaying of broadcaster Percy Lapid surrenders to authorities. Russian jet fighter crashes over residential area in Yeysk, southern Russia, killing 13 people, including 3 children. And 2 UN peacekeepers die after a highway bomb explosion in northern Mali.
The Department of Health has cautioned the public to continue its adherence to standard health protocols. This following the detection of XBB Omicron subvariant cases in some regions of the country. The DOH also warned that the country's daily COVID-19 infections could reach 18,000 by November. Madeline Villar Moratillo reports.
The Department of Health said that daily COVID-19 infection in the country could reach 18,000 by November. The DOH raised the alarm as it confirmed the detection of XBB Omicron subvariant and XBC variant in the country. Health Officer in charge, Maria Rosario Vergere, said that based on the latest genome sequencing, the country has recorded 81 cases of the XBB variant in Western Visayas and Davao region, 70 of which have recovered from the illness, while 8 others remain in isolation and 3 are under verification. Meanwhile, 193 cases of XBC variant were detected, 176 among which have recovered, with 3 are still in isolation and 9 others are under verification. 5 individuals infected by the XBC variant died. The XBC variant cases were identified in Cagayan Valley, Western and Central Visayas, Davao Region, Soc-Sargen, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao or BARM, Caraga, and the National Capital Region. Vergere said the XBB subvariant is believed to be causing another surge of COVID-19 in Singapore, but there are no evidence to confirm that it makes the cases worse. According to the Center for Disease Prevention and Control or CDC, XBB symptoms are the same as the original Omicron variant such as flu, cough, heavy breathing, body pains, headache, loss of taste and smell, sore throat, colds, nausea, and diarrhea. Meanwhile, the XBC variant was declared by the United Kingdom's Health Security Agency as a variant under monitoring and investigation. XBC is said to be recombinant of Delta and BA.2 variants. Even the World Health Organization or WHO is still studying the new variant and its effects to the health of an individual. But Vergere said that based on other countries' experience, these variants are more transmissible.
Base sa experience ng mga iba't ibang bansa na nakakaranas ngayon itong mga subvariants na ito, nakikita natin tumataas uli ang kaso sa Singapore, sa UK, sa US, like specific in New York na sinasabi na rin ni Dr. Fauci na because of these subvariants na meron sa ngayon. So if you try to look at the articles and the experiences from other countries and looking at our trends also here in the country, nakita natin that most of these variants na nakikita natin sa areas ng Mindanao. Specific tayo sa BARM at saka sa Region 12, where most of our vaccination coverage are low. At saka, nakikita rin natin na yung kanilang kaso ay medyo may uptick, no, from these recent weeks. Kaya gusto natin i-assume sa ngayon, but there is still no clear or concrete evidence that can say really na transmission is getting faster here in our country.
Health experts remain emphatic to public on wearing the mask, getting vaccinated and boosted in order to avoid contracting the new variants. Madeline Villar Moratillo for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
According to independent monitoring group Octa Research, the 7-day COVID-19 positivity rate in the National Capital Region went down last week, but the indicator remained very high in some provinces. On Twitter, Octa fellow Dr. Guido David said that NCR's positivity rate decreased from 17.9% on October 8 to 15% on October 15. He added that several provinces reported positivity rates above 20%. Camarines Sur, which is at 46.2%, topped the list. Tarlac and South Cotabato's positivity rates are 41.6% and 26.9% respectively. The positivity rate refers to the percentage of people who were found positive for COVID-19 among the total number of individuals tested. Meanwhile, David said the reproduction number, or the number of people infected by one case in the capital region, rose to 1.03 as of October 14 from 0.93 recorded on October 12. The reproduction rate refers to the number of people infected by one case. A reproduction number that is below 1 indicates that the transmission of the virus is slowing down.
The Department of Health reported 1,196 new cases, 34 deaths, and 1,988 recoveries. The health agency said that there are 25,039 active cases, while the nationwide positivity rate is at 13.8%. Of this figure, 401 COVID cases were found in NCR, 228 were recorded in Calabarzon, and 123 were logged in Central Luzon.
The administration's economic team remains optimistic that the Marcos government would achieve its short, medium, and long-term goals for the country's economic recovery. Eden Santos has the details.
We believe we are on the right track with the right plans and policies. With your trust in our government's greater sense of urgency, we are confident that we can weather today's economic challenges.
Amid the weakening of peso, increase in fuel prices and other commodities, the Marcos administration is confident that the country's economy will continue with its recovery. National Economic and Development Authority or NEDA Director General Secretary Arsenio Balisacan said today's cabinet meeting focuses on the challenges faced by the continuous increase in inflation rate, exchange rate, and interest rate. Balisacan said that like many other Asian countries and worldwide, the Philippines couldn't avoid the global trend of high inflation rates due to the effects of calamities and conflicts. The NEDA chief assured the Marcos administration remains on track with its target goals to recover.
As a small, open economy, the Philippines cannot escape the effects of these global headwinds. The Marcos administration is indeed mindful of these challenges. We are particularly concerned about higher inflation. Our analysis shows that sustained increases in inflation in 2022 and 2023 will cause a slowdown in our economic growth, translating into a GDP level lower by 0.6% in 2023 than its expected level had there been no sustained inflation shock. While we expect our poverty situation to improve as we continue our recovery, inflation and rising interest rates will mute this improvement. However, we expect the rise in inflation to be temporary, as it is expected to slow down and return to the medium-term target of 2 to 4%. We maintain that the country's economic prospects remain bright as we get our priorities straight and our acts right. This outlook is borne out by the World Bank's recently released October forecast for 2022 and 2023. It expects the Philippines to grow by 6.5% in 2022, second only to Vietnam among major ASEAN economies, and by 5.8% in 2023. Again, faster than Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. Similarly, ADB and the ASEAN Plus 3 Macroeconomic Research Office, or AMRO, project Philippine economic growth to remain robust in 2022 and 2023, with the economy expected to grow by 6.5% to 6.9% in 2022 and 6.3% in 2023. Our employment statistics are also encouraging. The unemployment rate has fallen to 5.3% in August 2022 from 8.1% in August 2021, while the labor force participation rate rose to 66.1% from 63.6%, an indication that the reopening of the economy is having its intended effect.
However, he admitted that there would be delay due to above-mentioned challenges. The economic team is also hopeful that through the medium-term fiscal program and the Philippine Development Plan, or PDP, anchored in the 8-point socio-economic agenda of the administration, there will be programs to help address the short and medium-term issues that the economy would face in the coming years. Eden Santos reporting for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Severe tropical storm Neneng has affected more than 103,000 individuals in northern Luzon. In the situational report issued by National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, residents affected by the typhoon reached 331 barangays in 7 provinces in Regions 1, 2, and the Cordillera Administrative Region, or CAR. Damage to agriculture reached almost 7.7 million pesos after the typhoon hit farmlands and livestock of more than 503 hectares of land and more than 1,000 farmers. More than 81 million pesos worth of infrastructure are also damaged, with 33 roads and flood-controlled structures.
Pagasa on Tuesday spotted a low-pressure area east of extreme northern Luzon. The Weather Bureau said in its 4 p.m. bulletin that as of 3 p.m., the new low-pressure area was located at 1,085 kilometers east of extreme northern Luzon. Pagasa said Batanes and the Babuyan Islands will have cloudy skies with scattered rain showers and thunderstorms due to the shear line. It also warned of possible flash floods or landslides due to moderate to at times heavy rains. Meanwhile, Metro Manila and the rest of the country will experience partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers or thunderstorms.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has declared October 31st as a special non-working holiday nationwide. Press Secretary Officer in Charge Cheloy Garafil said the proclamation was issued to allow families to enjoy longer time together and as a means to promote local tourism. Meanwhile, the Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, reminded everyone of the pay scheme that applies during special non-working holidays. DOLE said it is no work, no pay for companies, but employees from the private sector who are required to work on special non-working holiday should receive an additional pay equivalent to 30% of their salary for their first 8 hours of work. When asked to extend an overtime, the employee should still receive an additional pay equivalent to 30% of their salary for every hour.
Justice Secretary Jesus Crispin Remulla said he would not resign from his post over the drug-related arrest of his eldest son. Remulla said he is not the one being prosecuted, but his son. Mian Corvera has the details.
Justice Secretary Jesus Crispin Remulla will remain in his post despite calls for his resignation. The cabinet official assured he would not intervene in the case of his son.
I know myself. I know it's not only me on trial here. It's my son on trial. It's the country in trial in some ways, but it's par for the course. It happens. And no more comment on that.
Remulla says since his son's arrest, he hasn't communicated with him or any of the lawyers handling his case, and he did not ask for any favor to help his son. Neither the prosecutor general have reported to him, so Remulla says he has no knowledge as to any developments in his son's case. He added that he has instructed the prosecutor to refer to the court and not his office if there's a resolution on the matter.
If there's a resolution, do not let it reach the DOJ. Let it be discussed in court, whatever the case may be. If it's an adverse case against my son, it will not be appealed here. It will go straight to the courts for trial.
Remulla says he already talked to the President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and the Chief Executive extended his sympathy but instructed him to continue doing his job. If in the future he committed mistakes or wrongdoing and thinks that he is not effective anymore with his duty, Remulla says he will inform the President. The official also thanked for the support given to him by colleagues and friends.
We're holding up very well. My wife, my mother, my children, my brothers and sisters are all supportive. And I'd like to thank those people who have sent me statements of support on text, Viber text, and all messaging platforms. I appreciate the statements of support.
Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency or PDEA operatives arrested Remulla's eldest son, Juanito Jose Diaz Remulla III, last week in his residence at Las Piñas in possession of a parcel with high-grade marijuana worth 1.25 million pesos. He was charged with possession of illegal drugs before the Las Piñas Regional Trial Court with no bail recommended. Remulla refuses to comment on allegations that his son received special treatment in his detention, including the delay in the release of the report on his arrest and blurring the photo on his mugshots while he is undergoing drug test.
I think that's a human rights issue, but I will not discuss it.
Mayan Corvera reporting for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
The Philippine National Police has in their custody the alleged gunman behind the slaying of broadcast journalist Percival Mabasa, professionally known as Percy Lapid. The suspect who surrendered to authorities identified his accomplices, including the person who commissioned the killing, who he said is currently incarcerated. Mar Gabriel has the details.
Interior and Local Government Secretary Benhur Abalos presented to the media the self-confessed gunman in the slaying of broadcast journalist Percival Mabasa or Percy Lapid. The suspect, identified as Joel Estorial, surrendered to the authorities on Monday as he is afraid of his security.
Bakit mo na ang gawain?
Kasi po lumabas na po yung mukha ko sa TV po.
So dahil lumabas, ano nangyari? Natakot ka ba o...
Natakot po ako. Tsaka nakonsensya po sa paggawa kaya Percy Lapid po.
Sino nag-utos sa'yo?
Galing po sa loob, sir. Sa bilibid po.
Abalos said the suspect is not a fall guy and in fact, he also surrendered the gun used in the crime.
Hindi niya lang inamin because the gun itself would match the slug. Nag-match yung ballistics. Number 1. Number 2, yung mga damit na pinunit-punit niya. No? Nandun pa rin talagang damit niya po ito. Number 3, yan po ay nasa CCTV. So this is a great police work. Binaktrack po yan, chinaga yan ng ating kapulisyahan.
Estorial also identified his cohorts in the crime, including Orlando, alias Orly, who drive the motorcycle, and the siblings Edmund and Israel Di Maculangan. He added that they are 6 in the group, commissioned by someone inside the bilibid to assassinate Lapid and was paid 550,000 pesos and getting 140,000 pesos for him.
Ano namin po doon usapan? Kung sino po ang matapat doon sa kay Percy po. Siya po ang babaril. Nagkataon po, natapat sa akin. Sabi naman po, pag hindi ko binaril, ako po ang papatayin. Kaya binaril ko na po si Percy. Sana po mapatawad po ako nila. Hindi ko naman kagustuhan yun. Nadala lang po ako ng kahirapan. Wala po kasi akong trabaho, sir.
Pinilit ka bang gawin itong statement na ito? Andiyan ang media, pinilit ka ba? May pumilit pa sa'yo?
Wala po. Kusa po.
So, itong dalawang to ay tinuturo, no? At sila'y talaga suspect na rin talaga rito. Inaayos na po lahat tungkol dito at kayo magkapatid, ako'y nananawagan na rin. Sumuko na ang gunman, mas mabuting sumuko na rin kayo. Dahil talagang naramdaman niya mismo na delikado ang buhay niya. At kung ano rin baka ang mangyari sa inyo.
Meanwhile, the Mabasa family has thanked the PNP for their prompt action on the case of Lapid. The family is hopeful that the gunman's surrender would lead the way to the identification, arrest, and prosecution of the mastermind in the crime. Mar Gabriel, reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Next on Mata ng Agila International, at least 13 killed, 19 injured in Russian plane crash. New landslide in Venezuela kills 3 people. And contaminated medicine kills at least 10 children in Yemen. More stories from around the globe when we return.
Most Filipinos dream of buying their own homes. And as the population in the metro is becoming denser, some people are attracted in buying properties in the suburban areas. In this episode, let's look at real estate options outside the metro as we go north and south with developments by Rabino Home Builders Corporation.
Mas worth it mag-invest sa real estate po talaga. Kasi kahit magkaanak ka, tumanda ka, andyan po yung lupa mo, tumataas at tumataas po talaga yung presyo ng lupa.
Only here in Open for Business.
Open for Business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m. This portion is brought to you by
continues here on Mata ng Agila International. At least 13 people, including 3 children, were killed after a Russian military plane crashed in Yeysk, southwest Russia. Moscow authorities said that the Sukhoi Su-34 smashed into a 9-story building. The aircraft's fuel caused a massive fire that consumed 5 floors of the residential building where around 600 people lived. According to the initial investigation, the pilots were on a training flight when unexpectedly one of the jet's engines malfunctioned and caught fire during takeoff. Authorities said the plane's pilots were able to eject. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin was informed of the incident. He immediately ordered that necessary assistance be given to the casualties. Regional Governor Veniamin Kondratiev also vowed to conduct further investigation into whether the building would be restored or a new apartment to be built. Underwater images published Tuesday show that at least 50 meters of the Nord Stream 1 pipeline has been destroyed or buried under the seafloor following an explosion assumed by some authorities to be from sabotage. The Danish police said their inspections of the twin pipelines in their economic zone of the Baltic Sea confirmed the damage was caused by powerful explosions. Yet in videos published by the Swedish newspaper Expressen, a massive tear in twisted metal can be seen on the Nord Stream 1 pipeline 80 meters down the sea. Trond Larsen, the drone operator with the Norwegian company Blue Eye Robotics, told Expressen that only an extreme force can bend metal that thick. Larsen also observed that there is a large impact on the seabed around the pipe. Swedish authorities previously announced that their inspection backed up suspicions of probable sabotage. The twin pipelines which connect Russia to Germany have been at the center of geopolitical tensions.
The UN mission said on Twitter that 2 United Nations peacekeepers have been killed, while 4 others have been injured or seriously injured in a bomb explosion along a highway in northern Mali. MINUSMA said 2 of its peacekeepers were killed on October 17 when their vehicle hit an improvised explosive device during a mine search and detection patrol in the South Kidal region. MINUSMA, the United Nations multidimensional integrated stabilization mission in Mali, says that since the beginning of its mission in 2013, improvised explosive devices or IEDs have claimed the lives of 74 peacekeepers. Mali has long struggled with a jihadist insurgency that has claimed thousands of lives and forced hundreds of thousands from their homes. Mines and IEDs are among the jihadists' weapons of choice. They can explode on impact or be detonated remotely. A report by MINUSMA has found that IEDs and mines killed 103 people and injured 297 in Mali last year.
Intense rain in northern Venezuela caused a landslide that killed at least 3 people. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro said he was informed that the 3 deaths in the district of El Castaño were caused by a mudslide that came from the mountain. The area is covered in mud and rocks with displaced vehicles, fallen trees, and huge boulders on the path. It is now without electricity. Just last week, President Maduro visited Las Tijeras, another site devastated by a landslide. 54 were left dead, with 8 others still missing. Las Tijeras is just 65 kilometers east of El Castaño. Rescue operations there are still ongoing. Leading the country for 9 years and a half now, Maduro stressed they have had the worst natural disasters this year, all caused by climate change.
Indonesian President Joko Widodo says the Kanjuruhan Stadium in Malang, where a post-match stampede killed more than 130 fans, will be demolished and rebuilt. At least 40 children died in that stampede that happened earlier this month. It was described by many as one of the darkest days for football. Widodo stated the new stadium will have better standards and facilities that can ensure the safety of both players and supporters. Speaking on the same day, FIFA President Gianni Infantino said the association will bring experts and invest in Indonesia to help the country shine on the global football stage.
Utamanya yang berkaitan dengan fasilitas yang ada di stadion. Standarnya seperti apa?
Next year, we organize here together the Under-20 FIFA World Cup. This is in men's football the most important competition after the World Cup. The next World Cup will start in 1 month in Qatar. But after that we have the Under-20, in which the best players of the world will come to Indonesia.
Boston University scientists were criticized for playing with fire after a research paper emerged online showing they had created a lethal new COVID strain in a laboratory. The research said it hopes to better understand the role played by the virus's spike protein in terms of how harmful a variant is. But to explain this, scientists at Boston University's Biosafety 4 Research Lab attached the more immune-evading Omicron spike protein to the backbone of an original Wuhan virus strain. According to the team's research, the hybrid virus killed 80% of mice during their tests. Many scientists slammed the paper. DailyMail.com cited Professor Shmuel Shapira, a leading scientist in the Israeli government, saying the experiment should be totally forbidden. Dr. Richard Ebright, a chemist at Rutgers University, told DailyMail.com that the research is a clear example of gain-of-function research. Ebright added that if the world is to avoid a next lab-generated pandemic, oversight of enhanced potential pandemic pathogen research must be strengthened. Gain-of-function research is when viruses are purposefully manipulated to be more infectious or deadly. In the past, news sources and some governments said that the COVID virus was a work of function research, yet there was no clear evidence about it. Yet Boston University argued the new research does not constitute a gain-of-function research, as it did not make the original COVID-19 strain more virulent. Some experts or authorities also said gain-of-function research is necessary for the fight against future pandemics.
Contaminated medication smuggled into war-torn Yemen has killed at least 10 children being treated for leukemia in the rebel-held capital Sana'a. The Houthi Health Ministry says 10 out of 19 children aged between 3 and 15 suffering from leukemia have died at the Kuwait hospital. It says bacterial contamination had been detected in the injections administered to the children, as authorities admitted the medication had been smuggled into the country. A parent of an 8-year-old patient who died laments it was the first treatment her son had received. The health sector in Yemen, the Arab world's poorest country, has been devastated by years of war between the rebels and Yemen's government. The war has cost the lives of hundreds of thousands of people, many through indirect causes such as hunger and disease. The Houthis, or who blame the coalition's air and sea blockade of Yemen for the latest tragedy, are often accused of blocking or holding up deliveries of humanitarian aid, on which 80% of Yemen's 30 million population depend for their survival.
Australia confirmed Tuesday that it would no longer recognize West Jerusalem as Israel's capital, reversing a controversial decision from the previous conservative government. According to Foreign Minister Penny Wong, the decision for the city's status must undergo peace talks between Israelis and Palestinians and not through unilateral decisions. West Jerusalem was named Israeli capital in 2018 after a conservative government led by Scott Morrison followed former President Donald Trump's decision. Wong accused the Morrison government of naming this capital with an aim to win the by-election in a beachside Sydney suburb with a sizable Jewish community.
I would say that Mr Morrison's decision to play politics, and it was no more than that, because of course we all know where the embassy remained, resulted in Australia's shifting position. I know that this has caused conflict and distress and concern in parts of the Australian community, and today the government seeks to resolve that.
In related news, in a tweet released by his international spokesperson, Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid criticized Australia's decision to stop recognizing West Jerusalem as his country's capital. Lapid described the move as a hasty response, adding hope that the Australian government manage other matters more seriously and professionally. The Israeli Foreign Ministry said it had summoned the Australian ambassador to lodge a formal protest. Palestinian Authorities Civil Affairs Minister Hussein Al-Sheikh lauds Australia's decision. He also said that Australia's call for a two-state solution is in accordance with international legitimacy. Jerusalem is claimed by both Israelis and Palestinians, but most governments avoid putting embassies there to avoid prejudging the outcome of a final peace agreement. During a press conference, Lapid mentioned that he had a discussion with UK Prime Minister Liz Truss to relocate England's embassy to Jerusalem. He also urged every world leader who has not relocated their country's embassy to Jerusalem to do so.
לא האוסטרלים ולא אף אחד אחר לא יקבע לנו מי היא בירת ישראל. ב3,000 השנים האחרונות ירושלים היא בירתה הנצחית של מדינת ישראל, וכך תישאר. ובמישור הדיפלומטי אנחנו נדע איך להגיב, ולא נעשה את זה במסיבות עיתונאים, אלא באופן מסודר, כי אנחנו עובדים מסודר.
Up next, UK Prime Minister Liz Truss sorry for economic mistakes, but vows to stay on.
France prepares for major disruptions as unions call transport strike. And UN chief says Ethiopia's situation spiraling out of control. Find out more about these stories when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Kontrobersya na walang takot na haharapin.
Pagpasok niyo, alam ko, maraming mga korupsyon sa loob ng militar. How did you handle it?
Ako naman ay umaayon lang ako dun sa mga policies ni President na ayaw na ng korupsyon.
Mga katanungan na sasagutin.
I would rather forfeit the 2 billion para hindi matuloy yung mga sanctions that will hurt us more.
Maging privado man o personal, walang palalagpasin.
Yeah. Your wife is Carol?
Edita.
Alam ko ba, Carol?
Sa Counterpoint, tuwing Miyerkules, alas 10:30 ng gabi, dito sa Net 25.
Alam ko kasi si Carol.
Pagmanguluhin yung buhay
kasi edit ka na.
Edit.
This portion is...
Pages of Britain's newspapers lead with the struggles of embattled Prime Minister Liz Truss, with The Sun branding her as a ghost PM. From UK, here's Arian Celestino.
Truss succeeded Boris Johnson by telling the Tory rank and file that she would turbocharge economic growth through tax cuts via increased borrowing. She accused her rival Rishi Sunak of scaremongering when he warned that such an approach at a time of rampant inflation would drive up interest rates for millions of Britons. But that is exactly what has happened, leading Truss on Friday to part ways with her finance minister, Kwasi Kwarteng, a fellow traveler on her political journey to the free market libertarian right. Truss is no stranger to screeching U-turns. She began her political journey as the Liberal Democrat supporting daughter of progressive parents and opposed the monarchy and Brexit. Her youthful cause to abolish the royal family ran headlong into her new role when Queen Elizabeth II died on September 8th, only 2 days after appointing Truss. The new Prime Minister paid tribute to the late monarch, curtsied to King Charles III, and joined the Queen's successor on a tour of his new UK realms. But her tribute from the steps of 10 Downing Street was widely seen as stilted, betraying the Latin oratory of Truss in comparison to the verbal theatrics of Johnson. Yet, after the scandal-ridden Johnson, Truss's unvarnished style and promises of a right-wing agenda found favor with the Tory membership. Reporting from the United Kingdom, this is Arian Celestino for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
France has prepared for a day of major disruptions after unions called for a nationwide transport strike as they remain in a deadlock with the government over walkouts at oil depots that have sparked fuel shortages there. The effects were already visible at Paris hub Gare de Lyon. Packed suburban trains were disgorging floods of passengers onto the platforms every 15 or even 20 minutes. Commuter Yera Diallo said rather than an hour and a half off trip, she spent 2 or 3 hours of travel time.
100 strikers also gathered in front of the RATP transport operators headquarters near the Gare de Lyon in Paris. The group demanded a pay rise and joined a procession of protesters in Place d'Italie. The industrial action seriously disrupted fuel distribution across the country, but particularly in northern and central France and the Paris region. Meanwhile, vocational high school teachers also demonstrated in Marseille to demand the withdrawal of Emmanuel Macron's reform project, which they believe will lead to the closure of many schools in France. In Strasbourg, a few hundred people also rallied, including the former ecologist presidential candidate Yannick Jadot, who pointed to totally legitimate demands in the face of an explosion in energy prices and food.
UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres calls for an immediate end to fighting in Ethiopia's Tigray region as war tears the country apart.
The situation in Ethiopia is spiraling out of control. Violence and destruction have reached alarming levels. The social fabric is being ripped apart. Hostilities in the Tigray region of Ethiopia must end now, including the immediate withdrawal and disengagement of Eritrean armed forces from Ethiopia.
Guterres' comments come as Ethiopia's government vows to seize control of airports and other sites in Tigray, shrugging off a call from the African Union for an immediate and unconditional truce. The nearly two-year-old conflict has unleashed a massive humanitarian crisis in Tigray and other parts of northern Ethiopia, driving 2 million people out of their homes while leaving millions more in need of aid. Guterres says that even before the fighting started, 13 million people lacked adequate food in the regions of Tigray, Amhara, and Afar. He says aid deliveries into Tigray have been halted for several weeks or for 7 weeks, and assistance to the other two regions disrupted.
There is no military solution. Civilians are paying a horrific price. Indiscriminate attacks, including in residential areas, are killing more innocent people every day, damaging critical infrastructure and limiting access to vital services. And we are also hearing disturbing accounts of sexual violence and other acts of brutality against women, children, and men. All parties must adhere to their obligations under international humanitarian law.
Guterres calls for the urgent resumption of talks to achieve a long-lasting political settlement.
The United Nations is ready to support the African Union in every possible way to end this nightmare for the Ethiopian people. We need the urgent resumption of talks towards an effective, lasting political settlement.
Haiti's Foreign Affairs Minister Jean-Victor Janaeus tells during an emergency UN Security Council meeting that the situation in the country has dangerously deteriorated. The meeting has been called to review a proposal to send an international peacekeeping force to the Caribbean island. Janaeus says he has a sensitive mission of bringing to the Security Council the distress call from the entire people of Haiti who are suffering and not living. He says they are but surviving. Janaeus says he speaks on behalf of 4 million children who could not go to school because of gang violence. He describes the situation as dangerously deteriorated as unfortunate and regrettable events are taking place every day and human lives are lost. There are kidnappings, destruction of properties, rape, theft, looting, threats, and intimidation. The foreign minister says this plunges the country further into chaos with extremely serious consequences for all of its people. He also mentions the resurgence of cholera in the country. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres says the deterioration of Haiti's security and health environment as gangs expand their control has produced an absolutely nightmarish situation for the local people there.
President Xi Jinping lauded China's rise to global power and demanded unity around his leadership. He also launched a Communist Party Congress that is set to rubber stamp his bid to rule for a historic third term. In an opening address to 2,300 delegates gathered at the Great Hall of the People, Xi upheld and defended a range of signature policies, including zero COVID and his anti-corruption drive that has taken down rivals in the party. Xi said that unity is strength and victory requires unity. He also said that China's international influence, appeal, and power to shape the world significantly increased during his 10-year rule, which saw the sleeping dragon becoming a global superpower. In his 100-minute work report on the past 5 years, Xi also focused on two of China's most sensitive security and sovereignty issues in relation to Hong Kong, after democracy protests were crushed there and on the self-ruled island of Taiwan. He hailed Hong Kong's transition from chaos to governance, while his vow to never commit to abandoning the use of force on self-ruled island of Taiwan drew rapturous applause.
China on Tuesday accused demonstrators of illegally entering Beijing's consulate in the British city of Manchester after a footage of a Hong Kong pro-democracy protester being assaulted on the ground sparked outrage in the UK. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin said protesters were to blame for violating the peace and dignity of China's overseas embassies. He said such actions will not be tolerated. Wenbin demanded the UK to firmly fulfill its duties and take effective measures to strengthen the protection of the premises and personnel of the Chinese embassy and consulates. For his part, a British government spokesman described the incident as obviously deeply concerning, adding that it would be inappropriate to give comments while police are still examining the incident. The protest happened as China unfolds its five-year Communist Party Congress, where a historic third term of power for President Xi Jinping is expected to be handed.
Up next, Taiwan's Foxconn unveils more electric vehicle prototypes. Former Japan and Celtic star Nakamura to retire at age 44. And Net25 wins Best Humanitarian Advocate TV Station at the Kilang Filipino Awards 2022. All these and more when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. May lalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa new era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Chinese tech giant Foxconn unveiled 2 more electric vehicle prototypes this Tuesday, including a pickup truck and 2 other designs that would start later this year. Beyond electronics assembly, the world's largest contract electronics maker, Foxconn, ventured into the competitive but rapidly expanding EV business. The newest concept cars and prototypes were a sporty hatchback dubbed the Model B and a pickup, the Model V. Foxconn chairman Young Liu announced that commercial production would start by the end of the year on the group's previously unveiled electric bus and a family sports utility vehicle. The company aims to produce electric vehicles as it did for gadgets, a go-to contract builder constructing vehicles for clients rather than selling them under its own name, using the prototypes as a guide. So far, Taiwanese automaker Luxgen, Lordstown Motors, US-based Indiv Incorporated, and US-based Fisker are the current companies in partnership with Foxconn.
Former Japan international and Celtic star Shunsuke Nakamura is set to retire from his 26-year career in football at the end of the season. The 44-year-old midfielder was a Scottish three-peat champion who also played in 2 World Cups. In a statement, Nakamura said he experienced struggles and setbacks, but he was able to move forward in life with all the support he received. No further details were provided in Nakamura's decision to retire, but some local sports papers cited injuries to his right ankle. Nakamura is known for his lethal set-piece deliveries during or using his left foot, and in Glasgow for a stunning free kick that contributed to Celtic beating Manchester United in the Champions League in 2006.
Net25 has been recognized as the Best Humanitarian Advocate TV Station of the Year at this year's Dakilang Filipino Awards. Net25's President and Marketing Director Cesar Vallejos was also accorded as Most Accomplished Marketing Director of the Year. Vallejos is also the host of the show Open for Business, where he interviews thought leaders and other personalities in the industry and the government. The Kilang Filipino Awards 2022 recognizes and gives opportunities to personalities from different sectors for their contributions to society. As Net25 continues to gain respect and recognition from different award-giving bodies, the network is committed to creating more relevant programs and providing fair and balanced information and being courageous in dealing with social issues and being sincere in its services to the people.
Marseille in France is described as a surprising city with many facets to it. And the old port of Marseille has been a favorite, not only for tourists, but more so by locals. Let's take a look at the beautiful Marseille.
An old port in Marseille has become a popular place to visit, not only for tourists but to locals as well. The old port or viewport de Marseille can be found at the end of Canebière, Marseille's main street. It has been the natural harbor of the city. From 8 o'clock in the morning up to 1 o'clock in the afternoon daily, there is a thriving fish market where you can buy fresh cuts of the day straight from the fishing boats. Another attraction is the craft market, or Le Artisanal du Vieux-Port, where it offers Savon de Marseille or Marseille soap, olive wood artifacts, and a lot more. And to fully enjoy the place, a ferry boat that Marshal Pagnol treasures leaves the city hall across the viewport. It was put into service in June 1880 along the well-known Town Hall to Place Uhil Road. Family and friends also prefer to take a walk along the old port and enjoy watching the sunset at the end of the day. I am Febeline Campo from Marseille, France, reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
At Tokyo's prestigious Bunka Fashion College, students concentrate in silence that is broken only by the sound of scissors and sewing machines as they strive to emulate the global success of alumni like Kenzo. The loss of greats Kenzo Takada and Issey Miyake heralds the end of a fashion era, decades after Japanese design revolutionized Parisian catwalks in the 1970s and the 1980s. Meanwhile, a goal for reliving the talent was never impossible for Bunka graduate Takuya Morikawa, whose streetwear-inspired tailoring made its Paris Fashion Week debut 2 years ago. Prior to the launch of his label Taakwe back in 2013, Morikawa worked on runway collections to learn more about traditional craft methods at Miyake's studio for 8 years. The 40-year-old Morikawa hopes his shows at the industry's top event will lead to an amazing future beyond his wildest dreams.
やっぱりその日本だけでなく、すごい東洋の価値観をすごい持ち込んだ人たちだと思うので、彼らが亡くなったことによって基盤になったものっていうのが崩れていくんじゃないかっていう心配はあるんですけど、同時になんか時代の分岐点っていうか、新しい価値観をじゃあ自分たちがどうやって作り上げていくのかなっていうのも結構考えさせられるきっかけになりましたね。
It's now time to take a look back at some historical events that happened on this day, October 18. In 1867, the territory of Alaska was formally transferred from Russia to the United States. Alaska was purchased by the U.S. from the Russian Empire for $7.2 million. In 1931, American inventor Thomas Edison, who was especially known for his critical role in introducing the modern age of electricity, died in West Orange, New Jersey. And in 2007, former Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto returned to Pakistan after 8 years in exile. The same night, suicide attackers blew themselves up near Bhutto's convoy, killing over 100, including 20 police officers.
And now to help you go through this week, here's a quote from Marie Forleo, an American life coach. Not having the best situation, but seeing the best in your situation is the key to happiness. You can have the best life, but if you're not happy, you're not happy. If you don't appreciate what you have in front of you, you're not going to be happy.
And you don't know what life will throw at you. As the saying goes, when life throws lemons, make lemonade.
And that is a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I'm CJ Hero.
And I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.